Hi, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Friday, July 6, 2012. And it's going to sound a lot like a broken record these next few days because the Atlantic is nice and quiet, and that'll be the theme for the next several broadcasts here for sure. As we look out across the tropical Atlantic, most of it anyway, you can see here into the Caribbean Sea from Hurricane Alley out here, absolutely nothing going on. No deep convection noted anywhere. This is the tropical wave that had flared up as it moved through the northern reaches of the Lesser Antilles, now passing over Hispaniola, and strong upper level winds coming around like this are going to keep it in check and not allow it to develop as the heat, the big heat ridge, stays strong over the east, bringing temperatures back into the triple digits across many areas. Very, very hot weather over the land areas, while the tropics remain fairly inactive. You usually don't have a very busy tropics when the land is so hot, when you have these giant heat ridges, because there's just not much of an imbalance. You have to have a difference in temperature and a reason for the tropics to become active. And so once we get into August and we sort of break this heat, I think that things will turn around and start to become more active, which they should anyway, just going on climatology. In the eastern Pacific, things remain busy, but there are no threats to land areas. This is Tropical Storm Daniel, and it's going to move on off to the west-northwest over cooler waters. You can see those cooler waters as evidenced by the gray color to the clouds. Not much energy in that water in terms of heat, so your cloud cover there is very low and not very thick in the atmosphere, so you don't have much color to it on the infrared spectrum, whereas with Daniel, lots of deep convection with it, so the cloud cover shows up as bright white, meaning that they reach really high into the atmosphere. The brighter the whites on this particular infrared shot indicate a taller cloud top into the atmosphere. This area is Invest 97E. Remember, the Hurricane Center labels those systems as 90 through 99, and then the letter E for East Pacific, the letter L for Atlantic, for example, as a way to assign more resources from different universities and governmental agencies to run computer models, satellite profiles, etc., as an area of interest or an area of investigation. This one, 97E, also probably destined to move on off to the west-northwest and not bother any land areas. Now I wanted to show you something interesting. You notice where these two systems are located here in proximity to Mexico, the Baja, and the mainland of Mexico here. Looking at the tropical cyclone, actually let's look at the track first. I got ahead of myself. With Daniel moving almost perfectly to the west-northwest, as I mentioned, no threat to land. Even Hawaii, which is way far off the screen here to the left or to the west, no threat, because this will diminish into a depression over those colder Pacific waters. Now what I wanted to show you is the tropical cyclone heat potential. You have Daniel sitting out about here, and then the other disturbance sitting down here. This heat potential, the TCHP, or tropical cyclone heat potential, the amount of real energy in the water, not very high. Not very high at all, and yet we're still seeing fairly prolific development. Daniel sitting out here, soon to be followed by the E-storm that will form and then move west. A little bit of heat potential sitting in here, but my point is you can have fairly active hurricane seasons without very high ocean heat content, and believe me, in the Atlantic, the Western Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, which you can see part of here, that value, the TCHP, or tropical cyclone heat potential value, is starting to really go up, and we'll really start to monitor this more closely when we get into August into September. But I just thought it was interesting that if you have fairly favorable upper level winds across a region where the ocean heat content isn't very robust, you can still have some pretty formidable tropical cyclones. So don't let the lack of heat content in one area fool you. If the upper level winds and the other environmental conditions in the atmosphere allow, you can definitely get some strong hurricanes. Luckily, with the eastern Pacific systems, neither are forecast to affect land. So the quiet pattern will continue probably for the next 5 days, I'd venture to guess. Beyond that time, you got to be careful because computer models are only so good, but the global model is really not seeing anything at all, at least for the next 5 days and probably longer in reality. But we'll see. We don't want to ever just write it off completely. That's what we're here for. Again, I am Mark Sudduth, my website, hurricanetrack.com. Always a pleasure to provide these videos for Hurricane and Hurricane HD. I'll do it again tomorrow.